Hello again. Okay, so the last video I did was the one titled "The Problem is Never the Problem." And in that video, I mentioned the sword of truth, which is the sword that David used to chop off the head of the giant. Okay, it's the sword that he used to chop off Goliath's head once he knocked him down. And I want to go a little further into this because it's so significant. If we can train ourselves to look at things in this way, I mean, you don't have to do it specifically in this way, but just along the idea of what I'm going to share here, you will be able to create phenomenal results in your life just because you'll be doing things differently from the way you've always done them. So David chopped off Goliath's head. So first, David knocked down the problem. Goliath represents the, if you haven't watched that other video, I suggest that you do. Goliath in that story represents, depending on, excuse me while I silence my phone, depending on how you are using this, you can either look at Goliath as the problem that you need to get past in order to get to the thing you're working toward or the solution or whatever, or you can look at him, same difference, as the obstacle. I like to look at it as the obstacle. It's a divine obstacle, because without that obstacle being there, the opportunity wouldn't be possible. So I love the obstacle. And so this is about what are we doing with our thinking. This whole video series is about what are we doing with our thinking. What am I thinking about this that's making me feel this way, and what's a thought that feels better? So I didn't want to go into the sword of truth in the last video because it would have made it an hour-long video, and I didn't want that. So for this one, we're focusing on that. So the problem, the obstacle, the whatever, the issue, the pattern, the habit, the paradigm, that's my thing. My thing is a paradigm, subconscious programming. The way my life is right now, and the same is true for every person on this planet. So put yourself in the I position here. The way my life is, the way your life is right now, is a direct result of your habits of thinking. The way my life is right now is a direct result of my habits of thinking. So when we say I can't because, the because would be Goliath. Okay, that's what's in the way. Excuse me, I just got home and it's very hot outside and I'm sweaty like a horse. So Goliath, the issue, that thing that stops us from having what we want, isn't anything out there. It's not anything out there. It's what's going on in here. It's what it's we have our habits of perception is what creates the life we're living. It's our habits. It's the habit of looking at things that we each as individuals have is what creates our life the way it is. So Goliath represents that habit. And the sword of truth is what David used. So first, he recognized that there was a problem. He recognized, hello, the subconscious program. He recognized the paradigm. He noticed something that there's a metaphor. He noticed something that he was doing inside his own mind that was creating the obstacle. And he took out his sling and he picked up 5 stones and he slung one of them and he knocked the problem down. So first he noticed it. He noticed that it was a problem. And then he said, no, I'm not going to let you have that kind of power anymore. So he knocked it down. And then he took the sword and he chopped off the head of the problem, signifying the end of the problem, signifying the end of the obstacle, signifying the moving out of the way of the obstacle. So in this metaphor, the way I think of the sword of truth is, it is what cuts through the nonsense of what I believe is the problem. So when I find myself looking at something like, I can't because, or, I want what I want, but here are all the reasons why I can't have it. That's just thinking. There's nothing real about that. It's all going on in my mind because somebody else who has a different thought about it. Remember the one video, how does a person who knows how to live happy do this? Well, how does a person who knows how to live that thing that I'm working for, how does that person do this? So somebody who has the mentality or the personal belief system that will allow them to have that thing knows exactly how to go for it and knows exactly how to get to it. The only thing stopping me is my thinking about it. The only thing stopping you is your thinking about it. So when you notice that, oh, look at me, look at what I'm thinking about this, that is stopping me from going for what I want. Okay, so now that you've noticed it, you have immediately taken some of its power away, effectively knocking it down. As soon as you notice it and acknowledge that that's something that you do inside your own mind, you have taken some of its power away. So the next thing you want to do is pick up a sword of truth. And a sword of truth is any thought, any creative idea that cuts through the nonsense of the problem thinking, cuts through the nonsense of the problem thinking, because that's all it is. So all of the quotes that I've shared so far, every single one of them, I have used deliberately as a sword of truth. The significant problems we face cannot be solved at the level of thinking that created them. That is a sword of truth. It is a sword of truth. Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. That is a sword of truth, and I used that deliberately. I've used it for 16, 17 years now, deliberately, when I find myself afraid to move forward and thinking those thoughts that make me afraid. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, look at what I'm thinking that's making me scared to do this. Ah, okay, knock it down. Take out the sword of truth. I can take this step in faith. I don't have to see the whole staircase. If I just take this one step, then I will have moved in the direction of my dream or whatever I'm working toward. And all of them, all of the ones that I've shared so far, all of the ones that I will be sharing in future videos. Where I place my attention, I'm placing my intention, is one that I used over and over again. Which I know I haven't mentioned that one yet, but I will, because it's incredibly powerful. What's one that I have mentioned so far? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That one, again, is huge. So look at how would I use that? So I'm looking at something that looks like a big fat problem to me. I notice that I'm looking at it that way. Oh, look at how I'm perceiving this. Look at how I'm looking at this. What's a different way that I could look at it? Because I know that when I change the way I look at this thing I'm looking at is going to change. When I change my perception of it, it's going to change. I know this from, I can't remember if I brought this up in a previous video or not, but I'm going to share it here. And if I have, then you get to hear it twice. When I was on the bus, I don't think I have. When I was on the bus, when I left Portland, I had a window seat, and I was leaving the Pacific Northwest, and I didn't want to, and I was upset, and I was angry that I felt forced to leave to save my own life, and I was being a victim. I was crying. I cried all the way down I-5. As the bus was headed toward California to bring me over to Arizona, where I knew there's no green here. There's no real green. I say that all the time. There is green here, but it's not like the green in the Pacific Northwest. And It's the desert. Hello, this is the desert. It doesn't look the same as the Pacific Northwest. So I was in a window seat on the bus, and I was watching as the scenery outside the window was getting more and more brown. Brown, brown, brown. Went from being very green and lush and wonderful and beautiful to not so much, and then even more not so much. And I was bawling my eyes out because I was so angry that I had to leave. And meanwhile, the young lady sitting in the seat next to me was bouncing up and down in her seat. She was bouncing up and down in her seat. And she kept saying, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get away from all this green." And I wanted to strangle her. How dare she think that about my Pacific Northwest? But she kept saying it over and over again, literally bouncing up and down in the seat. I thought she was about 17 years old, because she was so full of life and so excited and so just happy to be getting away from all this green. I can't wait to get away from all this green. And that was a big aha for me, because what I noticed was, and I absolutely, I used this idea because I was homeless when I got here. And I knew I had to do things differently from the way I had always done them, or I was going to end up a victim again. So this is something that I used deliberately when I got off the bus, deliberately, because it worked so well for me when I had the aha. So I'm looking out the window, and what I see makes me unhappy. She's looking out the very same damn window, and what she sees makes her so happy. It's the same window. It's the same scenery. And that was a light bulb moment for me. Oh my God, we are both looking out the same window at the same exact thing, but we're both seeing something. We're each seeing something very different from what the other person is seeing. And that was my first when I first began to understand the nature of circumstances. Circumstances don't care. Circumstances don't care what we think about them or how we feel about them. They just are. So when my husband just came home, I forgot to close the office door. Sorry. So we were both looking out the same window at the same thing. And that was when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Really expanded for me exponentially, because I had been using it in the relationship. Now I wasn't in the relationship, and I was headed for something really scary. So what I had to know for myself was, I always get to choose how I look at things. I always get to choose how I look at things. First, I have to notice how I'm looking at them. So first I have to knock down Goliath with the noticing, and then I got to chop off his head with the sword of truth. Every single thing that you find in every one of these videos can be used this way. So, and I hope you do. And I would love to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and end this now before my husband and his smiling face comes in here. So leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. And have a good rest of your day, if you choose to.